this is not a new story, but it's starting to surface again. It was out and then it disappeared. Cy Hirsch, who I think most of us can trust, to the journalist, the investigative journalist. We can trust to tell the truth. We can trust to do the necessary investigative work, kind of like Greg Palast. There are several. Cy Hirsch had at Salon.com an article, I think it first appeared in the New Yorker, but it's starting to recirculate, and that is that after Rumsfeld testified in was it in May of last year about Abu Ghraib? Was it? I think it was. There was talk of more photos and videos in the Pentagon's custody. Remember that? And it immediately disappeared. One of the reasons that conversation, that line of talk disappeared is because these are supposed to be more horrific than anything made public so far. Rumsfeld said, quote, if these are released to the public, obviously it's going to make matters worse, end quote. And since that testimony, the Washington Post has disclosed some new details and images of abuse at the prison. But Seymour Hersh says it all gets much worse. Now, a few weeks back, Hersh gave a speech to the ACLU making the charge that children were sodomized in front of women in the prison, and the Pentagon has video of this. The speech was first reported in a New York Sun newspaper story. The New York Sun, of course, no longer exists. It recently went bankrupt. Other blogs are linking now, or blogs are linking to the video. At the start of the transcript, I don't mean the video that the Pentagon has. I mean the video of Hersh at this ACLU meeting. At the start of the transcript, you can see how Hersh was struggling over what he would say. Now here's part of it. Debating about it, some of the worst things that happened you don't know about, okay? Videos, there are women there. Some of you may have read that they were passing letters out, communications out to their men. This is at Abu Ghraib. The women were passing messages out saying, please come and kill me because of what's happened. And basically what happened is that those women who were arrested with young boys, children in cases that have been recorded, the boys were sodomized with the cameras rolling. And the worst above all of that is the soundtrack of the boys screaming that your government now has. The boys are in total terror. This is all going to come out. End quote. What do you suppose is going to happen when those videos are released? And you know they will be. You know that they will be. Do you think we'll be able to, as a society, be able to handle that? Huh? I know Limbaugh will probably love it because every other reference he has about when he really wants to try to embarrass or denigrate somebody or what they had to say, he usually uses the phrase, well, then they expect you to bend over and grab your ankles, and, then that he always makes that reference, which would indicate to me that Limbaugh is very much into sodomizing people. And I use the term in its forced, violent torture sense. I don't equate sexual activity of any sort with any sort of even close to being deviant. How can something be deviant if humans can do it with each other, then it's not deviant. I mean, it's that simple, isn't it? Unless it is used as a form of torture. And rape is not a deviant form of sexual expression. It is violence. Sodomizing someone is not a form of, in the meaning I give to it, is not, in this context, is not a form of pleasurable activity. It is a form of violence. And when Limbaugh talks about it, he uses it in that context, violence. If these tapes are released, and they will be, you know they will, of children being sodomized, what do you suppose will happen to us? I don't like to think about that. I really don't. Dar Jamil, writing at Truth Out today, talks about the very topic that was all over the news yesterday and that we talked about extensively last night. And that was in Baghdad yesterday, the U.S. soldier gunning down 5 fellow soldiers at a stress counseling center. And as we mentioned, the chairman of the U.S. The Joint Chiefs of Staff told reporters at a news conference afterwards, Admiral Mike Mullen, that the shootings occurred in a place where, quote, individuals were seeking help, end quote. Mullen added, quote, it does speak to me, though, about the need for us to redouble our efforts. The concern in terms of dealing with the stress, it also speaks to the issue of multiple deployments, end quote. And as Jamail writes, the shocking story of a soldier killing 5 of his comrades doesn't come as a surprise when we consider that our military has for years now been sending troops with untreated post-traumatic stress disorder back into the U.S. occupation of Iraq. And I mentioned this yesterday in my blog. Last summer, Jamail spoke with a Marine named Brian Kassler, who had served in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Kassler suffered from chronic PTSD. He continues to have nightmares. And Kassler gives an account of what he's going through. Also, a Sergeant Christopher Lejeune and a couple others here that I'm going to share with you in a second. We have a break coming up here. But the violence that has been done to our troops, and I'm not talking about being in combat zones where we have no business being. The people who started that, Bush and Cheney, have cut and run, although Cheney continues to pollute the airwaves with his distortions and lies. But Bush, what is Bush doing? He's just happy as a pig in crap, isn't he? Huh? Just rolling around someplace. I was a war president.